The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 162. The first day of fall practice is just a week away, and B10 Media Days in Chicago this week will get the hype started. That and more on this week's show. This is the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Even though we're really only in the middle of summer right now, it sure seems like fall is coming on fast. This week, the hype begins with B10 Media Days in Chicago. Michigan beat writer Kyle Meinke from MLive will be there to cover the event. Before he got out of town on Tuesday, he and I had a few minutes to chat Michigan football. And Kyle will be with us on Michigan Gameday in just a few minutes. Before we get to that, though, let's get started with our Wolverine Warmups for this week. August 4th. That is the first official day of fall practice for the Wolverines. Yes, it's just 1 week away. Week by week, the anticipation will grow as we approach Labor Day weekend and the opener with Central Michigan. In the coming weeks, we'll be looking at the Big Ten race. Who are the favorites? Will there be any surprise teams out there this year? Who are the players to watch this season? We'll also start to break down the Wolverine depth chart on both sides of the ball. There is still competition at many positions, so the two deep will be a work in progress over the next few weeks. We'll also be watching which freshmen generate a buzz in fall practice. We expect we'll hear much about Derek Green, Jake Butt, and Taco Charlton. But once practice gets underway, it will be fascinating to see if any other newcomers will turn heads. We'll be watching that closely. Next week, we're back to our weekly programming schedule. Our guest will be the featured blogger from Fox Sports Detroit, Art Regner, who I think you'll enjoy. All of us in the Detroit market know who Art is. He knows Michigan football. He's been a radio personality at WDFN in Detroit and the Ticket 97.1, so we hope you'll join us for that. So don't forget to start downloading the show weekly, starting next week. Well, as soon as I turn on my tablet, each morning I tap on my MLive Wolverine football app. It doesn't matter if it's football season, if it's Christmas Day, spring, or summer. Beat writer Kyle Meinke is cranking out Michigan football news each and every day, and it's always good stuff. Covering Michigan football is 365, 24/7 for Kyle, and he does a great job. Coming up next on Michigan Game Day, Kyle joins us with his thoughts on Devin Gardner, B10 Media Days, and much more. Here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. Back with us on Michigan Game Day to, yes, start talking and thinking Michigan football. Beat writer Kyle Meinke from MLive. Great to have you back, Kyle.
Good to be back, Mike. Can't believe the season is just a few weeks away, huh?
Hard to believe. 2 weeks from yesterday, Sunday, we're recording this on a Monday. Camp opens for Michigan, so it is right around the corner. So I think it's fair that we can start prognosticating and dreaming about the upcoming season. You have been very busy at MLive this summer, cranking out all different kind of articles looking forward to the season. The one guy, Kyle, that I think you've probably written the most about is Devin Gardner. So let's start with Devin, if we could. He's been getting just a ton of press, a lot of hype this summer, really since the season ended. A couple of weeks ago, Devin attended the Manning Passing Academy down in Louisiana with 40 other quarterbacks. He really received very high praise, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. All the reports that I saw, and I talked to one person who was there firsthand, they all had high reviews of how he looked. Obviously, he's shown a lot of development, a lot of growth with his passing mechanics, being able to become more consistent with those. It's funny because you mentioned all of the accolades he's received this offseason, all the attention that he's received. It's interesting to note that he's only started 5 games. I mean, he's still pretty much a rookie when it comes to being a starting quarterback. But he was so impressive in those last 5 games of last season. And he obviously has a real elite skill set. He has that big 6'5" frame. He has a lot of people excited about what he can do when he really does tap into his potential and gets a little bit of experience. Devin's noted throughout this offseason, especially during spring camp, that last season he was basically just riding his physical attributes. Yeah, because he did rise into lineup so quickly when Denard Robinson became injured that he didn't really have time to digest, hey, what's the defense doing? Like, what are they doing to counter me? He wasn't making progressions, and he wasn't really checking down very much because he didn't have a real firm grasp of the offense. I mean, he had played quarterback previously, but the offense kind of evolved, and he was just kind of thrown out there. So it was very much, let's just fly by the seat of our pants and do what we can to win this ball game, and then move on to the next one. This offseason, he's really focused on watching film. Al Borders has been really complimentary about his diligence in the film room of watching just hours and hours and hours of tape of himself, of opponents, of what he did last year, of what opponents like to do. So I think that you'll see a more equipped and more consistent and a smarter Devin Gardner this season.
And when you listen to Devin, we really, in the last few years, I mean, you guys that covered the team have been able to talk to him, but a lot of fans haven't had the opportunity to hear Devin speak. He seems, along with all of the hype he's getting, he seems to be a very sensible guy and has the personality that can handle this.
You're absolutely right, Mike. Absolutely right, Mike. And I'm glad you brought that up because he, I mean, a lot of guys can play the position, but that position is so important in terms of a team, in terms of the locker room. Teams, I think, function best when they have a natural leader at quarterback. And, Denard Robinson did a ton of things right, and he was a good leader, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was really a natural leader in the traditional sense. It was something that he had to learn over time. But he did a nice job with it. But you can already see a difference with Devin Gardner. He's a natural leader. He's a charismatic guy. He's outspoken. He's extremely intelligent and articulate, and he's one of those unique guys he can tell people off, and they listen to him and they respect him for it. And you need a guy like that that's going to keep the house in order, if you will. And I think that Devin Gardner is the perfect guy for that. And, Denard Robinson, he cast such a shadow over the program because of all the accomplishments that he was able to secure during his career at Michigan that for a lot of guys, I think that would be intimidating to be able to succeed him and try to live up to what Denard was. But I think Devin's got the personality to handle that exceptionally well, aside from the skill set. I think he just has the personality to be able to handle that kind of pressure of following a legend.
And he's a very bright guy academically. I don't know if a lot of folks know that he graduated in, a little more than 3 years from the University of Michigan, and he is now studying at the University of Michigan School of Social Work, which is rated by just about anyone that rates schools as the best school of social work in the country.
Right, exactly. And yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of people know that. And it's extremely interesting to me because you hear a lot about players taking the easy way out or, just investing so much time into football so that you don't have so much time to focus on academics. I mean, yeah, Gardner's, he graduated in 3 years, but now he's going into a really top graduate program in sociology. And so I think that it does really speak to his intelligence and his commitment to his intelligence and developing that end of him as a person as well. And it's kind of interesting, too, because if he has a big year this year, not that I've been keeping an eye on, but if he has a huge year this year, if he has a degree in hand and a year of graduate school, that might make him a little bit more likely to declare for the NFL draft next year. I mean, we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves here a little bit, but then that does play into it a little bit, that he's so far ahead and so intelligent that, yeah, it's, I think, speeding along his progression just a little bit.
Last week on MLive, Kyle on Michigan Over and Under, you asked the question, will Devin Gardner surpass Denard Robinson's career touchdown record? Do you really think he has a chance to do that?
Not the career, but I think his best season. I think Denard, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was 36 touchdowns was his best season.
Yeah.
And I think that Devin has, in the over-under, at MLive, I did pick the over. I think it'll be close. But I think Devin, because he is a dual threat, he can do it through the air or on the ground. I think he does have a chance to break that mark. I think that he's going to be the focus of the offense. When you talk about, Fitzgerald struggled so much last year, and then, Derek Green does enter the mix as the number one incoming running back in the country. That has a lot of people excited. but there is still uncertainty up front on the offensive line. So I think when you get into the red zone, you're going to go to what works. And what worked last year when Devin Gunner started at quarterback was, just put Devin in a rollout, let him make his reads, find someone who's open, and beat him with his arm, which he can do, or just let him rush to the corner of the end zone. That happened several times last year. He rushed and passed for touchdowns in every game he started but one. So I think that you're going to see more of that this year. So Michigan's going to utilize him both on the ground and through the air, especially when he gets into the red zone. And I think that's going to help him pile up touchdowns. I think the running game will be better this year. The tailbacks will be better this year than they were last year. But I think that when it gets into the red zone, it's going to be a lot of Devin Garner either rushing or passing for scores. And I think that gives him a real chance to surpass what Bernard Robinson did. And moreover, I think the offense will be more consistent. I think it'll be better with Devin Garner just because he can beat teams two ways. Bernard was so electric on the ground, but we know that he's a little inconsistent through the air, and sometimes that made the offense a little predictable. I think that you won't have that predictability this year so much with Devin Garner at quarterback.
Well, Kyle, in another Michigan over and under last week, you asked if Devin could eclipse the 3,000-yard passing mark this season. Do you think he has the receiving core to, help him gain lofty numbers like that?
That's the big question. I mean, Michigan has a great number one in Jeremy Gallen. I think he, pound for pound, or inch for inch, if you will, is the best receiver in the Big Ten. He's only 5'8", but he's just a hell of a receiver. I really enjoy watching him play just because he plays the game in such the right way for a receiver. He always thinks block first, but when he goes out there for a pass, man, he is tough. He can really go up and get it, even over guys who are 3 or 4 inches taller than him. So that gives Michigan a nice veteran presence of receiver. But the big question is behind him. Drew Dilly is a nice player. He's a very sure-handed receiver. But he's definitely built for the slot. I don't think he can be a legitimate number 2 target, if you will. I don't think he can play outside. So that's really where Michigan's going to look for a guy to step up during fall camp. I've heard really good things about Amara Darboh, who was a true freshman last year, played some on special teams, but not so much on offense. And I've heard that he's kind of a junior Hemingway type player, where he's a little bit bigger bodied, he's 6'2", really thick frame, and he can use it. And we saw a little bit of him in the spring game. You saw, he got like a 30-something yard pass on the first play of the game, of the spring game. He also caught the first pass, but he passed over the middle of spring camp overall in the first practice of spring camp. And I think that really signals that Devin Garner and Amara Darboh have developed a little bit of a rapport. I think that he's probably the leader's third receiver at this point. J.U. Chesson is also in that conversation. I think a big factor in whether or not Devin Garner can get to that 3,000-yard plateau and how effective he is as a passer this year is how if you can get a third or a fourth receiver to step up behind really known commodities in both Jeremy Gallen and Drew Dilly.
Yeah, I think that's what most of us see heading into the season. We have to see a couple of these young guys step up, but we're seeing a return to some of the bigger-bodied receivers. And Chesson, from everything I hear, straight line speed is incredible. He's struggled a bit with his route running, but it's guys like that that are going to have to step up this year to help Devin get the numbers like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. Every guy that Michigan's recruited since the staff came in from 2011 until 2013 has been at least 6'2". So you can definitely see where they're going. Don't get me wrong, Hoke loves having Jeremy Gallen wear a winged helmet. He wouldn't want him anywhere else. He's a good receiver. But the philosophy is changing, and I think you'll start to see some of that this year. I think you'll see the Darboh. He's 6'2". I think you'll see him in the starting lineup. Chesson, who you alluded to, as you said, I've heard the same thing. Good straight line speed, has to work on the route running a little bit, but he's a really fast guy, and he also is 6'2". And the guys behind the 3 freshmen who come in this year, Demario Jones, Sante York, and Jerron Dukes, they're all 6'2" or taller too. So I think that one of those guys could step up just as a complementary role. And of course, you got Jeremy Jackson back this year too. He might play a little bit of a role as well, just to help with the depth.
Our guest on Michigan Game Day today, as we begin the process of looking forward to this fast approaching season, is Michigan beat writer Kyle Meinke from MLive. Kyle, let's talk about the defense for a couple of minutes. Much has been written this offseason regarding Michigan's inability to generate a pass rush on defense the last 2 seasons, without blitzing. An important question heading into this season, is Greg Madison's defense, and will it be able to get to the quarterbacks? And from what Coach Madison has been saying, he fully expects that they will be able to do that.
Yeah, he does. I think one thing that really helped was, for instance, during spring camp, they've had 2 spring camps before this one with this team. So they've been able to install the scheme. Everyone got comfortable with each other. The players understood what Madison was expecting, especially up front. The fundamentals were totally overhauled. That, I think, is an understated point of why the defensive line has played better and better under the staff. It's just the scheme is great, but I think fundamentally the players are so much better. It's all about the small things now, whereas that wasn't really coached before. So all that groundwork was laid in 2 spring camps. This spring, it was spent a lot more focusing on just what has ailed the defensive line, which has been pass rush, has been sacks. So, yeah, that groundwork was laid, and fundamentals are definitely stressed and that kind of thing. But they were able to focus on penetration, on different scheme-type stuff. They have a third-year player they really like in Frank Clark. He's going to be a starter this year at weak side end, taking over for Brennan Byer, who's moved to linebacker. So you throw all these things together, just more focus on the pass rush. That was the number one focus during spring. And then you add a really dynamic athlete in Frank Clark. I think that the mixture is there for this to be a much better pass rushing team. Frank Clark has been the most athletic defensive lineman for 2 years. The difference this year, according to every player I've talked to, according to coaches, is just that he's become a more mature player. He sees himself as a veteran now. He kind of has to lead by example. So that's forced him to be more studious with the game, to take his craft more seriously. He's not just riding his athleticism anymore. He's learning the intricacies of the game of playing the end position. I think that he's found that maturity, that consistency, and I really do think that he's going to be the new star of the defense this year. I think when Jake Ryan gets back, he's still the number one guy, but I think you're going to hear a lot about Frank Clark this year. And if you do, and if that's true, you will see more sacks. You will see more pressure generated by the defensive line. And behind Frank Clark, you have 2 more really talented guys, in Mario Ujamudia and then a true freshman in Taco Charlton. I think you're just going to see more production from that position. Inside, you have 2 seniors in Quentin Washington and Jabril Black. Washington was a first-year starter last year. He's back as a 5th-year senior with a ton of experience. I thought he was a great player by the end of the year. He was really tough to block by the end of the season. You figured that growth would continue. And then the one real question I have about the defensive line is a strong side end. Whether it's going to be Keith Heitzman or Chris Wormley, a redshirt freshman, or someone else. No one's really stepped up into that position yet. And I think that's the one position where you have to really work on something during the fall and find an answer.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kyle, the good thing about that is you just racked off the names of a few players, which means there's competition and there's depth on that defensive line. Yes, it's unproven yet, and a lot of the preseason magazines are saying they're talking more about what Michigan lost in Campbell and a couple of the other guys, but this is a talented group. We just have to wait for them to step up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Greg Madison loved that. He loves to say that there isn't 4 starters up front. There's 8 starters. The backups are starters too. They just come in after a few series or whatever. And it's kind of coach speak, if you will. But he definitely wants to coach like that. He wants to rotate the guys through fast. If you're a starter, that doesn't mean you're into the whole game. He wants to go through and through 2 or even 3 deep at some positions just to keep guys fresh. He wants to go in 100% every play, and when you can't go 100%, he wants to put your hand up, and you'll come out, and somebody else will come in and do the job just as well. And that's the goal. I think Michigan is finally getting to a point where it has the bodies, maybe not the experience quite yet, but definitely the bodies to go 2 and sometimes 3 deep at those positions. You have what I really like about the defensive line is you have experience almost all the way across with the starters, except for the strong side end position. I mean, those 3 guys, Frank Clark, Jabril Black, and Quentin Washington, have played a lot of football. So you have great experience at the top. But then you have all these really talented, big-bodied, freshmen, sophomores, third-year players coming up behind them to really fill out depth. And I think that's something Michigan hasn't had in a number of years. I think the big year you'll see is maybe next year when all these recruits, the big class from 2012, big defensive line class, they'll become third-year players, and I think that's maybe when you'll really see a tick forward. But I think this year will be a very good year as well for the defensive line.
Well, Kyle, the defense is going to be missing, arguably, its best player in Jake Ryan until some time in October. We're not exactly sure yet. a lot of people will need to step up, which we've just talked about while Jake is on the mend. One of those names we've been hearing about and you've written about is James Ross at weak side linebacker. The staff really likes this guy, don't they?
Staff really loves him. I've talked to some people that were around for spring practices and just said they basically said he was the most improved player on the field, and that he's on the cusp of being a very good Big Ten linebacker, which is pretty exciting to hear if you're a Michigan fan or if you're on the Michigan team, because this guy, he's only started 2 games in his career, and he's already looking this good. So I think that if he gets some experience under his belt, he could become he's not going to be Jake Ryan, but he's going to fill, I think, some of that playmaking void that's been left with Jake Ryan out until at least October. Desmond Morgan started for 2 years at that position, at that weak side position, and this offseason they moved him to the middle just to make room for James Ross. I think that really speaks to how good he's looked, that his staff feels they need to get him on the field, and you can see why he's, in my opinion, the most athletic linebacker Michigan has. Desmond Morgan was a nice player. He was pretty consistent and really knew the scheme well, but he was a little bit limited by his athletic ability. He's not the fastest player. So I think he's actually maybe better suited to the middle, where it does feature more of the smarts and not being able to shed blockers with your body, that kind of thing. Whereas the weak side position with James Ross is more about athletic ability. And so I think Michigan actually has an upgrade at both the middle position and the weak side position by making that move and getting James Ross onto the field.
Well, Kyle, another player that's been getting plenty of pub in the offseason, and for good reason, is Taylor Lewan. He's stacking up the preseason honors. As expected, he is already on 4 watch lists for this upcoming season, which is very impressive considering he's an offensive
You're
lineman.
exactly right. I mean, he was on the Maxwell Award watch list, which is for Player of the Year. He was on the Walter Camp list, which is also, I think he was one of just 2 offensive linemen on the Walter Camp list with Jake Matthews, the tackle from Texas A&M. And I think those, at least going into the season, those would be the 2 premier tackles in the whole country, Taylor Lewan and Jake Matthews. And I think you're going to continue to hear this buzz because he's a 5th-year senior, but he's played a ton of football. I mean, he started, since he's a redshirt freshman, he started almost 30 games in a row now. And obviously we know what he did last year, just being named the Big Ten's Offensive Lineman of the Year. He was an All-American according to a lot of people. And I think he vetted himself, and sometimes a lot of his doubters, I don't think there were that many, but there were some people wondering if he was truly an elite lineman. And I think he silenced all of that with his performance in the Outback Bowl against Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney is just a freak when it comes to playing the defensive line position, the defensive end position. He could have been the number 1 pick in the NFL draft last year as a sophomore. And they went into that battle against Taylor Lewan. I thought Lewan stalemated him. I thought it was a stalemate. That's what I really thought. And that's really, I don't think anyone's done that against Jadeveon Clowney, at least not in a year or so. And so I think Taylor Lewan certainly comes into this year as one of the nation's preeminent tackles, and definitely provides a veteran presence for that otherwise very young Michigan line. Him and Michael Schofield, I think, will be very good players at the tackle position, but Michigan's very young inside on the offensive line. And I think that, you like having the skill of Taylor Lewan back. I think just having that leadership as well is really going to pay dividends all the way across the line.
Well, Kyle, you took part in a media poll recently that picked Michigan to win the Legends Division, then fall to Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, which would mean Michigan and Ohio State would meet twice this year, which a lot of people are already thinking about. I think just the thought of back-to-back meetings and weekends with Ohio State and Michigan is something, not only the media, but the fans would just go crazy over. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's never happened before. And that would be pretty interesting because, this rivalry is so historic. They've met at the last game of the season, the regular season, for so long now. And then to play twice in a row, with Big Ten championship on the line at first, and then maybe a bid to a BCS Bowl, or plays outright to a national title game or something like that. That's pretty historic, and this is the only year it can happen. The divisions are getting realigned next year, and they'll be thrown together in the same East Division next year. So this is the only time it can happen. And I think I was a voter in that poll. I picked Nebraska to win the Legends, and I picked Ohio State and the Leaders. But you can definitely foresee a scenario in which Michigan would make it, and they would play Ohio State, and that would be, I think, great for the game. I think it'd be great for the Big Ten, which has been beat up a little bit the past couple of years. But to have those two flagship football programs playing against each other for 2 weeks in a row in the title game, I guess that would be fantastic for everyone, including myself. I'd love to see it.
Oh, yeah, I think we all would, and what would make it even more special is what you alluded to a moment ago, because of conference realignment, it can't happen again, so it's like having the 4th of July 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah, it's the biggest game in the Big Ten. It's probably the biggest game, I would say, in the country in terms of regular season, and to see it twice. So two rivals, Big Ten rivals, so historic, so much tradition, but then you look at where they're heading to. I mean, these are two of the Big Ten's best right now, and with the way the Hoke is recruiting, with the way that Urban Meyer is recruiting, you see these two clashing for a long time, and you see these two becoming the real powers of the Midwest, I would say, going forward. And so it's such an interesting dynamic to see those two kind of at a crossroads so early in Hoke and Meyer's tenure, and I think it would really build drama for those two and their rivalry going forward as well. Well,
Kyle, this week it all kicks off with Big 10 Media Days, and you are headed there. This is an event that just seems to keep getting bigger and bigger year in and year out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that really speaks to the marketing acumen of Jim Delaney, the Big Ten commissioner, and his staff. I think this has become a kind of like how the NFL draft has become a bigger and bigger off-season event, to the point where it's almost as big of a event now as an actual game. I think it's kind of similar. It's getting to that point anyway with Big Ten Media Days. I mean, this is a real spectacle. I think that, there were several hundred media there last year. I can't remember offhand how many were there, but it was packed. And with Urban Meyer in the conference now and Brady Hoke recruiting the way that he is, I think the profile is going up. The Big Ten brand of football, I think, has kind of stagnated, and that's pretty well documented. I think at the top you still have some real star power. And you have the Penn State dynamic as well, with Bill O'Brien doing a real nice job there, but still trying to escape the shadow of sanctions and all that. So there's a lot of storylines to watch, and I think that brings a lot of people to Chicago for those media days.
This is your third Big Ten Media Days, right, since you've become
Correct,
beat writer?
Yeah.
What do you find most fascinating about the interaction with those coaches and players?
I think you get a real pulse for where coaches are at. It's kind of interesting to sit in one auditorium, in one ballroom, or what we want to call it, and to hear all these coaches go up there and represent the programs, and that you see real differing personalities. Hoke, as we know, plays it pretty close to the vest. Doesn't say a whole lot, but then you got guys who go up there and just shoot from the hip, like an Urban Meyer. I mean, that guy doesn't back down for better or worse, and it's a little bit of both sometimes. But he shoots from the hip, and kind of interesting. I think you have some real quality coaches that are like Joe Paterno, like that for me as newer to covering the Big Ten. That was pretty cool for me to be able to listen to him talk a couple of years ago and get a feel for his personality. And then, from a Michigan angle, from going out as a Michigan beat writer, it's our best access to players. 3 players go every year, and they'll sit down at a table for you for I think it's an hour and a half, if I remember right, and you can just sit there and talk to them. That's about the best access as you'll ever get. So like last year, I got to sit there and just talk to Taylor Lewan I sat there for almost a half hour, I think, and just listen to him talk and ask a few questions. And you get a good feel for where players are at, what they focused on in the off season, where they think that the team's at, what they need to work on going forward. And you get a feel for the personalities too. Taylor Lewan has one of those, and he's back this year going to Media Days as well as Devin Garner, 2 real articulate, real charismatic, and full of personality type guys. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to most this year, is just getting a feel for Gardner and Lewan and what they've been working on and doing this summer. That's about what I look for when I go to Media Days.
Well, it should be fun, and officially let the hype begin this week for the upcoming Big Ten and college football season. Our guest on the show today has been Michigan beat writer Kyle Meinke from MLive, and we look forward, Kyle, to following you in MLive this week and next week to see what your thoughts are on Big Ten Media Days, and of course with camp opening up in just a couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot to talk about. The season is right around the corner, and we look forward to having you on many times during the coming season. So thanks for joining us.
Sounds great, Mike. Thanks a lot again for having me on.
As always, great to have Michigan beat writer Kyle Meinke from MLive on the show. Kyle will be back many times during the upcoming season, so we hope you'll check him out. And also, get the MLive football app or follow Kyle's great Michigan coverage at www.mlive.com. Coming up next, we wrap it up for another week here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits this week, fall practice gets underway next Sunday, so that means we're back to weekly programming. Actually, our weekly shows run from August through April, and then we're on twice a month from May through July. So while the players are cracking pads getting ready for the season, we will be working on bringing you interesting guests and the latest news, or as much as we can get, from behind the walls of Fort Schembechler. So don't forget to tell your friends about the show, and start tuning us in and downloading us weekly. Now would also be a good time to become a member on our website here at GBM Wolverine. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up for membership today. It only takes a minute. Then you'll have access to the latest news, player profiles, our message board, and our live chats with E-Rock Wolverine and all of our great writers here at GBM Wolverine. So check us out at www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up and become a member today. There are a variety of ways now you can listen to the show. If you're an Apple person, you can subscribe for free or download the app from the iTunes Store. For Android users, our app is available at Amazon.com in the App Store. Both apps are easy to use, and the show is delivered weekly right to your device. And the best part is, it's free. Another great app is TuneIn Radio, so get your app and join us weekly for the best in Wolverine football coverage. I'd also like to hear what you think about this Michigan team and the upcoming season. My listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. Just tell me who you are, where you're calling from, and then give us your prediction on this upcoming season. You can also email your thoughts to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. I'll have all of this on my show notes page if you don't have a pen or a pencil handy to write it down. You know, sometimes we wonder if there's anyone out there listening, so surprise us. Call the listener line or email me with your comments and get yourself heard on an upcoming show. So that's it for this week. We'll be back next week as we begin weekly programming with our special guest, Art Regner. Again, Art is the featured blogger at Fox Sports Detroit, is a well-known radio personality, and believe me when I say this, Art knows Michigan football, and he is more than passionate about his Wolverines. So don't forget to join us next week for Art. Until then, have another great Wolverine summer week. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until next week, as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!